What's up? Today I'm going to talk about the power of reading. Check it out. Hey guys, King of Monk here, KOMK. Thanks again for checking out the video. So today I want to talk about the power of reading. That's right. Reading, it's so powerful. Okay, and I didn't learn this until much later in life, because if you've watched my other video when I was especially talking about my my second language learning journey, I dropped out of high school when I was 16, but before that I did not read. I mean, I didn't read anything. I wouldn't even read a menu because I want to eat that. Okay, I was so against reading that it was kind of like almost like a defense mechanism, that when anytime it was something that I had to read, I would kind of fight against it, and it was sad in a way. But I didn't really realize it because, you know, when you're going through life and everything like that, you're getting by. And I know there's a lot of people out there, and I would meet people that also were poor readers or had, you know, less education, especially now as a teacher. You know, I have a lot of students and their reading ability is quite low. Even though I teach English as a second or other language, even students that in their own language, their reading ability and their literacy is quite low. But for me, it wasn't until it was much later in life that I realized what the power of reading really is. You know, when you haven't read anything and then you start to read something, you have that kind of light bulb moment, and you start saying to yourself, what the hell was I doing? Why wasn't I reading before? And I remember I was on the plane from Washington, D.C. to Hong Kong, and I picked up the book, Bruce Lee's The Tao of Jeet Kune Do, okay? And I started reading it. Yeah, a lot of pictures in it, right? And I was interested in Bruce Lee, of course, being a martial artist and everything. And I started reading this book, and by the time, before we even got to Hong Kong, now that flight, it was a direct flight, I believe, and it was about 16 hours, 15 to 16 hours. But I had read the whole book, cover to cover. And I had never done that before in my life. And it really set off a signal to me that I could do this. I could actually, reading is kind of fun. I learned a lot. I read this book and I learned a lot, okay? But then when I thought about it and I was writing in my journal, it was more that I learned about myself. Obviously his book, it's a great book if you check it out. It's a great book, and it's him. You can see Bruce in writing it. But I learned about myself for this because I thought about, why is it that I put off reading for so long? And what was I afraid of, you know? Obviously if you're dropping out of school when you're 16, you're obviously not even thinking about reading. And there's people that go through school and aren't very good readers and don't read at all. You know, maybe they played a lot of sports and they got through mostly playing sports and stuff like that, whatever the reason is. But I really started to realize that I needed to read more. And so I started picking up books, and now it's an addiction almost. I buy a lot of books. I'm not saying I read every book that I buy sometimes, but initially I'll start reading it, or the book itself attracted me. So what is it? Why should we read, right? And if we think about now, it seems like we're reading a lot, but are we? Because you walk around and you see everybody's holding their phone or a device or something like that, but are they really reading? Or are they looking at social media? Are they checking out just news blurbs and just scrolling and trolling? Or whatever? Are they swiping left on Tinder? I mean, what are they doing, right? So are we actually reading more now? I believe we are, right? And probably, and if you read some stuff, some research on it and stuff like that, it'll say that we're actually reading a lot more than we ever were. But there's something about holding that book in your hand, turning the pages, feeling the book. You know, I think when you read from a book, you start to develop kind of a relationship with the words, the pages. You start to feel a little bit more towards that there was somebody actually sitting down and writing this. And I think that that's more, it makes it more special. At least it does for me. And I would hope that I could influence other people to pick up more books and read more. When we think about language learning, Stephen Krashen, who's a great linguist, his biggest thing forever, for a long, long time in his research and what he talks about and lectures about is comprehensible input. And if you're learning another language, if you start reading things in that language, even at the very beginning level, it doesn't matter, but you gotta be reading from the beginning, your language learning ability will increase very quickly. It really, really will, because you have something that's interesting to you, right? Comprehensible, interesting, right? It must be interesting. Input, it's just constantly coming in. You can do it on your own. So your language ability just goes up. It really does. And on that, for me and English, my English was horrible. I could always articulate my thoughts pretty well verbally because I'm very much a communicator. But when I look back at some of my old journals before I really started reading, so even for my own native language of English, my English was horrible. So even when I was writing in my journal and I look back at some of my old journals, oh man, it's hard to read them. It's hard to read them. I almost want to pull out a pen and make corrections in them, which I would never do, but it gives me that feeling because my English was so poor. So many misspelled words. I still have a problem with spelling. Misspelled words, just grammar, the way I wrote things. It was hard, but it was me at the moment, and that's beautiful by itself for me. And so it can also help your own language ability the more you read. And that's what as teachers we tell, and every professor at the universities I studied at, that's what they would say to help you be a better academic writer. You read more academic, say journals and academic publications and stuff like that. When you read that style, you start to build that style in your own writing. And so that's powerful. Reading can help you so much that the things that you learn, it goes further than what you can actually experience in life. I mean, we can pick up books and we can learn about things that we will never be able to see in our lifetime, probably, right? Even if we think about the past, of course, we can read a lot about the things about history and things like that, but I don't feel that I will be able to go to space, or that I really want to go to space, but I can read about it and learn about it, right? I can read about animals and things like that I'm not going to go and pet a lion, but I can go and read about it, right? And there's so much that can be pulled from books that I think if you're not reading enough, you need to start reading, because it gives you that type of feeling that that you've grabbed a hold of something new for the day. Okay, sometimes if you read in the morning, like on your commute, I have a commute, and sometimes I'm reading or writing, but if I'm reading, when I start my day, I feel like I've already learned something. I've already done something to kind of generate some ideas in my mind that kind of helps me for the rest of the day sometimes, because I'll be massaging those thoughts all day long. I'll be thinking about them. I'll be going through them and kind of, reviewing them and questioning them, because that's the beauty also with the reading, is that you read a little bit and then just question it to yourself. What did I just read? And ask yourself, if you're keeping a journal, which you should be, write about it in the journal. That gives you something to write about. So a lot of times when people talk about, writing a journal, I don't have anything to say. Read something and then just write about what you've just read. And also, for a study tip for anybody that's studying, that is a powerful way to help you retain information. Read for 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be a long time. Read for 5 minutes and then sit down and write about what you just read in your own words. What you have understood about what that passage, that page, that chapter, whatever you read, write about it. Okay, and just put it in your own words, summarize it, paraphrase it, because those are academic skills that we need when we have to, say, do a report or write a paper or something like that. Read a little bit, write a little bit. Read a little bit, write a little bit. You'll be surprised how much more information that you actually retain. But my goal with this and this rambling is that I hope that other people can start to feel the power of reading. And I hope that people will go off and buy a book, buy some more books. For me, when I buy books in the way that I read, and I wrote about it at thekingofmorencalk.com, you can check out it. It's called The Power of Reading. I'm like a kid with a remote. I even wrote I'm like a 12-year-old with ADHD with a TV remote in my hand. I walk by the shelf, I'll pull out a book, I might read it for 10 minutes or so, I put it back. Maybe if it's something that really grabs my attention, I'll read it longer. But then I go on to the next one, and I'll read that a little bit. Then if I'm in the mood, whatever mood I'm in, I'll grab that. Maybe I'll grab a novel or something like that. I don't personally read a lot of fiction. I feel that there's a lot more about the world and my other interests that I want to learn about. And I'm often off in my own imagination, daydreaming, that I feel like my imagination gets its workout. And I just, that's how I read. That's how I read. Some people, they get a book and they want to go cover to cover. They just front to back, coast to coast, like LeBron James, coast to coast. But for me, I read it bit by bit. I'll go to the middle of the book, maybe a chapter that I like, something like that. So with that, that's all I have to say. I just, I want everyone to kind of feel the power of reading, because reading is powerful. Reading will help you so much in life, especially for those that are younger and really looking to kind of learn more, do more, understand more about the world. Maybe your resources are limited and you can't travel a lot. Read about different destinations, different places. If you're studying a subject, get books on those subjects and read about them, but read things that are interesting to you, because the more you read of things that are interesting to you, the more you will read, right? You don't want to, at times we get forced to read some things if we're studying or for work or something like that, but we need to have that passion for reading. And so we need to read things that are interesting. And that's that, So I hope all of you guys can grab some books, do some reading, okay? Because the power of reading is real. All right? KOMK coming at you. Thanks again. Try to subscribe and leave a comment. Tell me about your experiences with reading. All right? And check out King of Morencalk. Peace.